When I started learning Japanese, I was not interested in speaking at all. I was only interested in two things: to understand and to learn about something new. And actually, I can only remember 3 times that I actually spoke Japanese, and outside from those times, I haven't spoken Japanese properly, I guess. And even though I didn't do that, I still learned a lot, and I still think that I can understand quite some Japanese, spoken or written, and I think you should be able to do that too. So let me share with you my experience with speaking and my opinion. So first of all, speaking in another language can be really uncomfortable for some people, and I am one of those people, especially with Japanese. But honestly though, I think if you are too uncomfortable to speak, then you're screwed. You have to speak, because this is what is going on in my mind and probably also in yours. So at first you're probably thinking, I really suck at speaking. So naturally you're going to think, I should really practice speaking. But if you're like me, then you'll feel really uncomfortable speaking, so you'll just keep learning and not speaking and do it some other time. But as a result, you are not going to improve. And the fact that you're not improving means that you still suck at speaking. And then we're back at the beginning, and this loop goes on and on and on. Because imagine, in your mind, you're probably thinking, after all these years, I should really be better at this language than I am now, especially at speaking. But as a result, you're going to feel even worse, and that's going to make it even harder for you to actually start speaking. So, how do you get out of this trap? Well, that is really simple. You have to start speaking. One way or the other, if you want to improve, you have to start right now. And there's actually a quote about this that I really, really like. It goes like this: "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." But then some people, they might say, but I'm not ready, or I'm too scared, or I don't know what to do. So for those people, here's my explanation of growth. To me, growth is a combination of skill and comfort. So for example, so if you want to grow in something, so speaking in this case, you have to have a certain amount of skill, and you have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you have to get out of it. Because if you stay in your comfort zone, then you won't experience any new things. And if something is too hard for you, your skill is too low, then you'll also not learn anything, and you'll get really frustrated. So ideally you want to be somewhat out of your comfort zone, but also do something that is not too hard, but also not too easy, somewhere in between. I think mindset in language learning is really underrated, and I think it's really important, so let me know if you like that. Perhaps I can make some videos about that. Anyway, the only way to learn how to speak with natives is to actually speak with natives. So now that I've told you that you have to start speaking now, whether you are uncomfortable with that or not, the next question is, when do I start speaking? Do I start now, or should I wait a period, learn some things, and then start speaking? It really depends on the path that you're taking, because in language learning there's, I guess, two approaches mainly. There's team start speaking now, and there's team start speaking after a certain period of time. First of all, I'll talk about learning how to speak right from the start. Personally, I don't really like speaking from the start immediately, because in my opinion, learning about the language is way more interesting than actually speaking the language, at least in the start. And maybe that's just because I'm unconfident when it comes to language. I only use something when I know 100% what it means. I don't like to use stuff that I haven't learned yet. So I want to make sure that what I say is correct. And maybe you're similar. And I don't want to just learn phrases and use them when I don't even know what they mean. I really don't like that. As a matter of fact, when I started out, I didn't even care about speaking. I remember when I heard Japanese for the first time, I was just so intrigued by the language, the way it sounded, and that really made me think, wow, what's up with this language? How does this work? And I was just so interested, and that is what got me into learning the language and the grammar, not speaking. So I'm on the other side of the spectrum, which is speak later. Like I said, I want to be able to understand things first and then speak. So input before output. And I guess you could call this the natural approach, because think about it, this is also how you learn a language when you're a child, right? You listen a lot, you don't know how to speak yet, and you listen and listen, and then you learn, and eventually you start speaking. Spoken language is hardwired inside the human brain. Language capacity in humans evolved about 100,000 years ago, and the human brain is fully adapted for language processing. Any child will learn to talk. You just have to trust your brain, because your brain is made to comprehend language and then be able to speak language. So in second language acquisition, so acquiring language versus actually studying, the emphasis is really put on input, listening a lot, without worrying about speaking. Just listen, listen, listen. And then eventually you'll pick up the language, at least in theory. If you're interested about this topic, language acquisition, you should check out this video because I think it's really fascinating stuff. It basically explains the way your brain works, and it's just so fascinating. But there's one stage in this process that I think is really interesting, and that is a stage called pre-production. This is also called the silent period, when the student takes in the new language but does not speak it. This period often lasts 6 weeks or longer, depending on the individual. Language acquisition has been studied a lot, and there has been a lot of results. So you can look up a lot of this stuff online, where people just try to immerse a lot, and after a certain amount of time they start speaking, but before that they just expose themselves to a lot of input. And in my case right now, with Japanese, I feel like I'm at a point where I've got enough language in my database, in my brain, to actually start speaking now, even though it's years later than when I started, not just 6 weeks. But like I said, I just really like learning about the language. Plus there's also this discomfort holding me back from actually speaking. So for example, with English, when somebody talks to me in English, or I look something up in English, or I watch something in English, whatever, I can understand anything. But even though I know a lot of English, actually speaking English, or right now talking to you in a camera, is quite uncomfortable, not just because I'm basically talking to myself. But you know, speaking English is so much different than actually being able to understand English. So for English, for example, the only way to improve this speaking is if I keep doing this. So I will. So then how do you actually improve speaking? Well, the single most important thing that I can tell you is you have to fail. Otherwise, you won't make progress. Or maybe you will, but it's going to take you a lot of time. Don't shadow, don't talk to yourself, don't hold conversations with yourself. If you want to learn how to speak, then speak. If you want to be able to speak with natives, then speak with natives. Go online, find somebody and speak with them. And it can be awkward, I know, but it probably won't be as awkward as me speaking in a language that I've never spoken before to a camera, but it's kind of awkward, so yeah. But I'm going to leave it up on this channel because, you know, I like seeing progress. I'm also going to try and start speaking for the first time in years. I'm going to go online, find somebody to talk with, and then just see how it goes. Really practice my speaking, not just once, but a couple of times, maybe a few weeks. And then I'm going to post my results here on this channel. So if you really want to see somebody who has been learning a language for years without speaking, have an actual conversation with a native, then please check out my next videos. When those videos are done, you can find them in the description. And until then, thank you for watching. Bye bye.